Today we got to talk about Oklahoma and Missouri State playing their game not on September 5th, but August 29th, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, Oklahoma and Missouri State both received word from the NCAA that their request for a waiver to play their game earlier was granted. That means that the September 5th showdown between Oklahoma and Missouri State, showdown, air quotes, has been moved up to August 29th purely for safety reasons. Now, Oklahoma and Missouri State have been working in concert with COVID testing labs, making sure that their protocols match up, but also wanting to move that game up for safety reasons. Now, Joe Castiglione has been out and about saying, hey, we would like to have the 2-week cushion before the game with Tennessee and before the game with Army to try to mitigate positive tests, right? Also means you get a game in earlier before we get to a cold season when the flu starts to really pick up. But let's talk about what NCAA and Missouri State had to say about this. Missouri State Athletic Director Kyle Mote said in a release, "We really appreciate the NCAA's waiver approval to move our game with Oklahoma up to week 0. The request will be made, or was made, purely from the safety and health. Try that again. The request was made purely for the safety and health of the student athletes and will allow both teams 2 weeks to recover before their next games and adjust as necessary to that ever-changing landscape that is the pandemic." Now, for their beat-em-down game, Missouri State's going to make $600,000, which is not a small amount of money. For perspective here, Kansas agreed to be host for Southern Illinois after Southern Illinois lost their game with Wisconsin. They're going to pay them $300,000 to play. So that's twice as much money as Southern Illinois Salukis are going to get paid. And you know that FCS programs need this money even more so than Power 5 programs need this money because their donor bases just aren't that big. And Oklahoma is the flagship of the state of Oklahoma in the way that Missouri State is not. That's Missouri. Now, Missouri State's football opener is also the first one for Bobby Petrino, which is going to be fair, and it's going to be fun. So check this out. Upon a report of public records or open records request by the news leader, which is the Springfield news leader, where Missouri State is covered, they found out that they're paying $26,314 for 203 nasal swabs between May 27th and July 14th. So that's about a 6-week stretch. That means that it's going to cost them about $50,000 to $75,000 to try to do this correctly. That is not a small amount of money, right? Then Joe Castiglione said in a radio appearance in Norman that they will use a portion of OU's COVID testing kits for their own football team, including having access to OU's testing labs leading up to the season opener. They're really trying to make sure that this game gets done. Now, I found it to be encouraging, one, that Oklahoma really wants to get this game in. Two, speaks to how much of our economic viability is built on these college football players playing games. Oklahoma announced this with like a tweet with Deshaun White on the cover, which is kind of getting at what I'm talking about. Deshaun White is a young black man. COVID affects black folks at 5 times the rate that it affects almost anybody else. And yet, Deshaun, who wants to play football, is on the cover of this because he is one of the stars of Oklahoma's defense and is expected to have a breakout season. I don't think there's any arguing that either. Now, for me, that means that we get football basically a month from Saturday, which is going to be a lot of fun. So we've got like 5 weeks we got to wait for this as we're going to start preseason practices real quick. We've seen Spencer Rattler out there rocking the number 7, Jaden Hazelwood walking the number 11. I'm told that the ACL repair and rehab have gone well. We'll see what that means. But mostly everybody's trying to get football in. So now we know that Kansas and Southern Illinois are going to play that weekend. And week 0 is fast becoming a huge game week at a time when it wasn't going to be that big a game week. There weren't going to be that many good games. Matter of fact, I think like Hawaii and like Arizona was going to be the best game on that schedule. And now you already got Oklahoma, Missouri State on it. Now, here's the thing. I'll bet that game's pay-per-view. So If you haven't already been paying your $60, your $50, your $40 to buy that game so that you don't have to buy a subscription to Sooner Sports, then you're doing it right. But maybe you could bootleg it. You just can't bootleg it at my house. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited that we get to have football. All right, that's it for me. Doses.